afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Trader Merlin Show for your exciting Monday morning. Man, what a shocker of a day for many people out there, I am sure. And we'll talk about the opportunities that it presents. But all in all, a wild weekend, especially starting over the weekend. You could see things kind of getting weaker with the tariff talk, which we'll get to, and just so much more coming in this weekend. Daniel says, what a fun day. Absolutely a fun day. Hey, I looked at it as a buying opportunity. So I'll start off with the graphic here today. Some people said it's a funny looking robot. This is, remember Edvard Munch, The Scream? It's one of the most famous paintings out there. I said, give me Edvard Munch's The Scream, but I want it done with AI and robotics and things like that. And this is the picture that came up. I kind of liked it. It's just showing the robot kind of freaking out a little bit. And I guess the topic at hand goes to some conversations I've had on this channel a few times, which has been the amount of capital outlay that companies like Google and Microsoft and Meta are paying companies like Nvidia for all their processing and chips. And as long as that demand continues to be there, then Nvidia will continue to surge. And that's kind of been the thought process for myself, as well as many of you, that Nvidia is just going to keep on trucking and trucking and trucking. Now, the news that broke over the weekend was about this project called DeepSeek. Of course, this is a Chinese company, and DeepSeek says that instead of spending hundreds of millions of dollars to create this large language model data set, they only needed $6 million, $5.6 million. And they have, a couple hundred employees and make it all happen. And, talking to people in the industry, it does do some really good things. It has some shortcomings as well. But bottom line is, it has everyone freaking out that because DeepSeek can create this large language model using just normal GPUs without any really big modifications and teams in place, that it will put pressure on the tech sector and cause companies like Nvidia to start losing business, meaning they're not going to be selling as many GPUs. Now, this all starts with the big premise at the very high end, which is, do you believe any piece of news that comes out of China? Maybe I'm being overly skeptical because of what I've seen happen over the years with regards to China and its totalitarian control over information. But let's be honest, I don't really believe that this company is doing what it says it's doing. I believe that it's actually a good AI, but I don't believe that it cost them $6 million. And there was an interview by a guy who was really kind of interesting in the industry, and he says that DeepSeek has access to over 50,000 of the H100, which right now is the most powerful chip by Nvidia, barring the new one that's not quite released yet. So they do have access to them, you just don't own them. So that you license the space, I guess, to train your model. Plus, think of it this way. As time goes on, these large language models, whether you're talking about Watson X or X.AI or OpenAI or Anthropic, whoever, Claude, whichever large language model you are using, they're all kind of combining the same information. They're scrubbing the web, getting as much information as they can from the web, and then maybe uploading books and historical artifacts or things that are documented to upload and train that model. At a certain point, I question, are those models going to be drastically different? Right? Are they all going to contain the same basic information and just kind of tweak it differently? If that's the case, then if there's an open model, and Facebook says their model is open, then somebody could just take that model for free, now use it, modify it for their own needs, and of course their cost is going to get cheaper. So it's this really interesting piece here that I had some graphics that I wanted to play with OpenAI today, or this is Midjourney. I love the digital chessboard, and I feel like this is one of those cool representations of where we are at with what happened over the weekend. As far as being an AI battle, what are we facing here? Well, first off, you have to see if it will continue to deliver on what DeepSeek says it can do. It also may cause these other companies to innovate. And I guess Nvidia released a statement saying, congratulations, it's really good that you guys did that. It now will cause these other industries, these other businesses to change their model a little bit, but they still will have superior computational power than DeepSeek, based off of what DeepSeek is saying. Now, again, I do not believe for 1 second that those numbers are legit. So when I look at the amount of money, now granted, we know that China has a much cheaper labor cost than the United States does. That's a given. And maybe they have access to all of these, better semiconductors and chips. But, the guy saying that they have access to 50,000 H100s, remember, they're not even supposed to have those H100s because of the Biden plan to not send those chips over to China. So who knows what's believable nowadays. What I do think is I have to take a step back from this, and I think of two different things. And I'm hoping that this will kind of calm some of you down. Number one is I look at the way that news is released sometimes, and I'm immediately thinking, especially things like this. I mean, Nvidia is down at one point over 18% today. Massive buying opportunity. I did sell puts today on Nvidia at the 108 strike, so expiring Friday. Great premium for the next 4 days. I'm fine owning Nvidia at 108. Now, when I see news like this or headlines that are so devastating that could just cause panic in an industry, I immediately start to think conspiracy. And I apologize if this comes across as, oh, Merlin, come on, that's probably not what happened. But this statement was released from DeepSeek on all their numbers, which I don't know if those have been verified or not. When something like that comes out, obviously there's a huge knee-jerk reaction and things plummet. Now, if I was a hedge fund in China or a prominent person or heck, even an American corporation, and I was working with this company, let's say you're a hedge fund from America, and you went out there to China and you found this little tiny startup AI company, and you gave them a language model, and they tweaked a little bit. It was open source, so here you go. Now you got this large language model, and you can say, oh, it cost us $5.6 million to build it. You know the industry's going to panic. So if I'm the hedge fund, I'm going to short SMH, I'm going to short Nvidia, I'm going to short Broadcom, I'm going to put heavy leverage short positions on those companies that have been benefiting from a monstrous increase in demand for those products. Now, when I release this news, which gets obviously spread like wildfire, I mean, it was probably the most talked about thing today. If you looked at Yahoo Finance, out of the Yahoo Finance homepage, out of 30 stories, 25 of them were DeepSeek in the headline. It was just creating chaos and shock. Oh, great, Tim. Yeah. All in, buddy. All in. Go all in on AI. So what you end up with is a big sell, panic sell, and someone profited big time from this. Now, this is where I think that the industry should step in a little bit and see, did anyone build a really large short position on Nvidia? I mean, you look at the position here, the chart, there really isn't a reason to be shorting Nvidia. You notice that just been on a nice uptrend. Yes, it's slowed down the past month and a half, but all in all, it's still a beautiful uptrend here for Nvidia. So there really shouldn't have been a lot of short sellers. If I'm the SEC, I'm going to look into this last 8-day window of time and see, did anybody buy massive amounts of puts on Nvidia? Did anybody buy massive amounts of puts on SMH or Broadcom or Avgo? Was there anybody just gambling big time on this? Because I'm willing to bet you that this is just orchestrated manipulation. If you look at the industry, what DeepSeek is saying is that they can train their large language model without the need for all of the processors, these massive, expensive computer components that all these companies are buying. Oh, we can do it with just a normal GPU. We don't need all that stuff. If that's true, then certainly there's more downside here to Nvidia. How far down does Nvidia go? Well, I have no idea. It really depends on the severity of the damage that DeepSeek can cause the industry. Because if DeepSeek can do this with just a standard video card, nothing that's really that intensive as far as GPU, then what that means is all of these companies are going to get stuck with big losses. Now, let's look at the Magnificent Seven today, the heaviest investors in Nvidia. Well, number one, Nvidia taking a big dive today. It's right now down to 16.97%. Again, I think it's a buying opportunity. Maybe wait a couple of days. Yeah, Lisa, and that's a great point there as well. She says, and no need for more energy. Let's just push that aside because I guarantee you Trump's going to keep pushing for more energy, regardless of what happens, right? And I think down the road we all agree we're going to need more energy, period. So that was a dive, which I think actually has a potential for more upside. You saw some of the nuclear companies take big hits today too. So Nvidia obviously taking a brunt of this, but you look at Google as well, down 4%. Not that big of a damage day. I mean, from what the markets make you believe, that this is like one of the worst days in financial history. It's like, it wasn't that bad, guys. 4% down for Google. Tesla was down 2.3%. Microsoft down 2.1%. Amazon up on the day. I mean, you talk about a story that no one's talking about. You had a big down day for Amazon, and it rallies back and closes right about all-time highs. Actually, I think it might be the highest all-time intraday close for Amazon on a day when the markets are down, a couple percent. That's pretty significant. Facebook also all-time highs on this one. So makes you wonder what really is coming out here with regards to this news. Big Eb says tariffs on DeepSeek. Yeah, tariff it all, buddy. Tariff it all. Why Apple was green the entire day. It just makes you wonder what information is legit and what's not. I really don't know if I believe this or not. I posted this on Twitter that, do you believe what's coming out of China? And I'm going to read what I posted here just so I make sure I have the right things commented on. But on my X today, I actually outlined these two kind of points here. I said, if DeepSeek is as impressive as the expert claimed, two things will happen. Number one, job obsolescence just went from decades to years. So if DeepSeek can pull off what they say they're doing with this large language model and helping train AI, and they can do that with really weak GPUs, imagine what they could do with good GPUs, stuff that's much more high power like Nvidia products. And then the second part of that is the companies that invested billions in AI-related tech will get crushed. And as I wrote that, I go, look out, Magnificent Seven, better learn how to trade now. Well, that Magnificent Seven, as we just looked at, the one that got crushed the most was Nvidia. These other companies that have big investments in AI fared rather well. I mean, Meta, one of the bigger investors in AI, all-time highs, looking really strong. So this tells me that there was people out there like myself looking at this going, hogwash, buying opportunity. And it wasn't just, let's look at some of the components of SMH, right? Here's SMH. By the way, just as you guys want a nice little trivia one here, normally I do trivia on Tuesdays, but I don't host it anymore, so I'll do trivia now randomly. Today's wealth loss for Nvidia was the largest loss of wealth by any one company in any one day over the course of history in the United States. That is shocking to believe that no company has ever lost more market cap in one day than Nvidia did today, with what, $590-something billion in one day. Wow. Unbelievable. And just incredible stuff. Anyway, I think Nvidia will be fine. My guess, everybody, is we'll probably see a couple more down days. I think just the knee-jerk reaction here is going to be, oh no. And then I think the reality will come out that this was, I think that this is kind of fake news. I don't think you could train large language models to that extent that DeepSeek says they are. The facts will come out and we'll see. Yeah, almost $600 billion in a day. Jeez Louise, man, that is a huge amount of money. So who else got hit? Well, obviously, SMH was a big one. I was looking at SMH as a potential buy as well. It hasn't gone below 235 for the better part of 4 or 5 months. And today we tiptoed down below that one. We're down 9.83% as an index, right? And of course, a lot of this index is Nvidia. But let's look at some of the key components. We had Colin Teddards of the Investor Channel on the other day, and he pointed at two companies. He says Nvidia is the number one, but then you got Broadcom as well. Well, let's go look at Avgo, AVGO. That's Broadcom. They were down 17.4%. Now, they're up in the after hours, but, excuse me, what made me a little nervous on Broadcom today is it was already in this gap. Now, for those that are listening to the podcast right now, Broadcom gapped up from $181 on December 12th to $213 on the next day, the 13th. That's a pretty significant gap. Of course, it was on earnings, but quite often when you start to fill a gap, it will fill all the way. So it had me nervous that Broadcom may actually come back down and close this gap at 180. We're currently sitting at 205 in the after-hour session. So all in all, not horrible. But I'm telling you, 17% drop. You got to ask yourself: Is this Broadcom going away? Right? Is their technology now obsolete because this one unknown Chinese company has said that they're doing all these things? For me personally, I'm thinking no way. I think that and I know some of you are holding some nice sized positions in these AI companies like Nvidia and Broadcom. Today was probably one of those ones where you just wanted to throw up in your mouth a little bit, right? Just, oh God, this is awful. I think you'll be okay. I don't think that this is the piece that broke the camel's back. And I think what we saw here at the very beginning of today's show, I saw Lisa post, "Hi everyone, the end of Nvidia?" No, this is not the end of Nvidia. I'd like to squash that right now. It's not the end. Does it take a pause and slow down a little bit? Maybe. I still think that there's massive demand and they're continuing to innovate their model. The 90% profit margins for Nvidia are going to start to go away. Now, what if it drops from 90 to 80, to 70, to 60? You will see still profit margins, but there still isn't the competition for that type of power. Now, what DeepSeek created was pretty impressive if they really did it how they said they did it. from what I'm hearing, they're actually using Nvidia products to do it. So I don't know if I buy the whole story. I think it's a shock factor that did its job, caused the tech sector to have a little bit of a derailment and maybe get a couple more days of this. But I think in the long run, you'll probably be okay with your Nvidia holdings. There are some other ones out here. I looked at Micron Technology today too. It's down about 11.7%. And look at where it's at. Right, it hasn't been doing that well for the past few months either. You had Taiwan Semiconductor, TSM. Remember, Taiwan Semiconductor, one of their biggest clients, Nvidia. You were talking 13% slide today. You literally erased about a month worth of upside movement for Taiwan Semiconductor, which has had a gorgeous, gorgeous uptrend for quite some time. Erased in one day. You also have Applied Materials. Now, these are all different segments within the semiconductor space, but it was a shock to the whole system. That's why I had this graphic up here today, which is like, it felt like the whole semiconductor industry exploded today. It's like, oh my goodness, oh no. I think we'll be okay. No, it's not the end of the world here. It's just, a bit of pain. I think some of you may have been feeling like this poor guy today. It's like, oh goodness. Well, that's why you kind of spread your investments around, because you don't want to have everything exposed to technology and AI. But really, when I look at that Magnificent Seven today, I think it's an interesting story that Apple was up on the day. I mean, people felt like the sky was falling. Dow was actually up on the day. Meta up on the day. Amazon up on the day. Really, it's just anything that's tethered or touching AI kind of got a little punch in the gut, especially Nvidia. Now, I think over time, again, these margins for Nvidia will start to slow down. I think they're just not going to maintain those kinds of margins as more as more competitors come in the space. But for now, it's hard to bet against them. So I have the 180 strikes expiring Friday. I know some of you might see Big Eb said he's got 110. Let me bring up the Dow here. I normally don't look at the Dow, but I just thought it would be interesting. Dow was up 0.65% today. Not quite all-time highs, but when you look at these other indexes, the Russell was actually holding fairly well early on and then just gave up the ghost, down 0.96. You had the S&P was down 1.4%. And, of course, NASDAQ really taking on the chin, down 2.98%, really at one point erasing all the gains from the past 2 weeks. We bounced nicely off of that 20,800 mark on the NASDAQ 100, but still down on the day, 2.98%. At one point, when we were at the peak of panic here from this news, NASDAQ was down, let me get that exact number for you, 5.24%. Brutal. Just a really ugly day. But, I think that this stuff does represent buying opportunities, but you also have to have your stop losses in place here in case I'm wrong, right? This could be much more pain for Nvidia if we start to get facts and real data that shows up that says, yeah, they're doing this with just a 386 processor, creating the large language model, then the need for data centers, all this major expensive equipment that Nvidia is selling may start to decline or slow down. But I still don't see it stopping. I think that the need for these complex systems and AI, not just for the AI, but the infrastructure to run it on a massively dispersed network, will probably continue. Now, sorry, all of a sudden now I'm coughing over here. I did see somebody in here talk about them banning it in the App Store. Yeah, maybe they do, right? This seems like a tit-for-tat thing. This seems like, oh, you're banning TikTok? Okay, well then we'll just release this one to crush all your AI companies. And I think that the chess game between our two companies is getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. But for right now, today was a good pain day. I liked it. We made some great opportunities. I got crushed, obviously, on some of my holdings for SMCI, which had a really heavy dip today. I did manage to sell some more $34 strikes, which was fine. I ended up getting 95 cents or something like that. It was good. All right, let's see. Big Ab, what'd you say? Actually exited half my Nvidia position at 150 and okay with getting exercise on the 110 put sold today. Hey, yeah, if you're selling at 150, buying back at 110, creating a 40% or $40 delta for yourself, I would call that winning. That's good. But again, you got to be ready to hold it if it continues to drop here. PBJ says, I saw something today about large options play on Friday that caused the ES drop on Friday. Do you know about what that was? No, I don't know. Don't know that one, PB. JB says, I feel like never a great way to start trading comment. This is a great opportunity for investing in the AI space. I agree with you, JB. I did not own any Nvidia. I still don't own any Nvidia, but I'm happy owning it at 108. You look at the price chart here. I wanted to go a little bit deeper, but I wanted to make sure I got at least 1% for the week. So you can see that 108 strike down there. For it to get back down to to get down to that price, Nvidia would have to fall another 8% this week. I don't see that happening. Could it? Absolutely. I mean, there's just no doubt that it can. But to get down to that line, that horizontal line I've got on the screen, by the dotted line. So right now the dotted line is the earnings. Let me move that over. I mean, I don't see it falling another 8% by Friday. So I'm totally fine with that. And if it does, I'll be okay owning Nvidia, sell some calls against it, and we'll be fine. Steve says Disney was up. Old Disney. Not really much to do with AI. Their earnings comes out next week, I believe. February 5th, their earnings come out. But yeah, you probably break down these Dow components and see a lot of stuff that was kind of dragging the market to the upside. Liz says, purely coincidental that last week's downgrade on Apple drove it straight into demand. I want to know. No conspiracy theories there from me, Liz. Again, I don't trust upgrades and downgrades. I believe that upgrades and downgrades are a way to manipulate you. And I think that this news about DeepSeek might also be a way to manipulate you. Over the long haul, more devices, more people, more stuff will be connected with electronics, and they all need better, faster, more powerful processing. And I don't see that going away because some tiny little Chinese company that is unaudited, not a lot of verification of their statements, is now saying that they're doing things way better than us. I think Trump even commented out, called it our Sputnik moment, which kind of reignited the United States to become the leader in space exploration. And we'll see if that does it for semiconductors and technology. But I know Trump is definitely pushing to get more dependency out of Asia and put it back in the United States and make us the leader in AI, crypto, digital assets, things like that. Let's see. I was exercising on my 360 on MicroStrategy this Friday. Sold 370 calls and that. Nice. John, your dad Art is here. Good to see you, Art. Hope I don't disappoint. I know I'm in my comfort clothes. It's been one of those long weekends. I had a terrible day yesterday. Horrible day. Watching the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles go to the Super Bowl. I couldn't be more disinterested. I would rather watch my dog lick the baseboards of my house because he thinks there's food on it than watch the Eagles and the Chiefs play. However, I will watch the Eagles and the Chiefs play. So, there we go. Good to see you, Art. If you got questions, my friend, type them in. And for all you new people as well, I know we've got a regular group here. I've got very simple rules with regards to chat. Chat, engage, have fun, treat everybody as a friend. If they say something you don't agree with, you don't have to be confrontational and shout at them and curse obscenities. If you do, I'll just block you. And no spamming. All right. Yeah, it was the Chiefs game. There's always terrible officiating. What kind of chips are used for blockchain? So this is a really interesting one, Jimmy. It depends on the blockchain itself. So for example, Ethereum, you don't need anything complex. It's just a data structure. So depending on, that's a great question. Actually, no one has ever asked me that. So we'll go on to a little bit of a lesson here on blockchain. But each blockchain functions differently, right? There's different requirements, there's different speeds, there's transaction capabilities, and there's also more decentralization. So one of the things that you guys are probably hearing a lot of recently is that Ripple is a fraud. How many of you guys have heard on the news, on Twitter, or X, that Ripple is a fraud? Curious if you guys have heard that at all. I'm going to bring the chart up for you guys. Here's Ripple, XRP. Had a real volatile day today. I mean, the last 24 hours have been wild for crypto, I'll tell you that. Been really, really crazy. So Ripple, a lot of people are now claiming this is a fraud and that it's a rug pull, that it's a scam. And I will tell you right now, it's not. However, there's some real fundamental differences to this. So I am getting to your question on the blockchain, Jimmy, just kind of circling back with an overview of crypto here and understanding how it all functions. One of the reason that you guys, and you're going to hear me on social media talking a lot more about this because I'm adamant about this. I'm really adamant about this. Bitcoin represents a commodity because no one controls Bitcoin. There isn't an entity that says, oh, we're going to do this or we're going to do this. It's the whole community globally has an input in what goes on with Bitcoin. Ripple, on the other hand, Ripple is controlled by one entity called Ripple Labs. And that Ripple Labs is a consortium of 5 or 6 big players, but they control everything. If Ripple wants to go east, they can go east. They want to go north, they'll go north. Wherever they want to go, that small team that controls almost 50% of all the coins of Ripple can do anything they want because they have a controlling stake and it's not decentralized. So when we have this discussion by the president that says we need to have a digital asset cryptocurrency stockpile, I'm okay with that. However, the only things that should be in there are decentralized, non-controlled marketplaces. If we put Ripple in there, that's the same as the government going, oh, well, we're going to put Apple on our strategic technology reserve. Well, now you're going to make the government a hedge fund? Doesn't make any sense. And you're picking winners by picking companies? Bitcoin's success is that no one controls it. Ripple is totally controlled. And as I mentioned the other day, Ripple Labs has 40 billion plus token or coins. At $3, that gives them 120 billion. And they are now on Capitol Hill today, yesterday, every day, lobbying and paying off politicians to get them to not put Bitcoin strategic reserve in place and to make it Ripple and other tokens. You guys should be upset about this. You do not want to have our reserve a controlled piece. For example, our strategic oil reserve. Who controls oil? Is there any one entity that controls oil? You could make the argument that the Saudis or OPEC does. Now, they have some influence over it, but they don't exclusively control it. Ripple Labs exclusively controls Ripple. So, you can make the argument, actually, now that Ethereum is starting to look that way as well, a little bit more controlled, which is kind of causing Ethereum to sell off. But a lot of people saying that it's just a fraud, that they gave themselves 80% of all the tokens to begin with, just like Trump coin did. And now Ripple has so much money and power they can influence it. Here's what you don't want. You do not want to have a private entity working its way into our government, working its way into our politics, that's going to start taking over the dollar and money transactions when they're centralized themselves. Imagine a central bank digital currency. Imagine the lobbying works and Brad Garlinghouse and the Ripple team pay off some senators, pay off some officials, pay off the president, which they already have donated tens of millions of dollars to his campaign. And they pump all this money in so that they can create the payment rails for a central bank digital currency, a CBDC. To me, this is a threat to national security. If you have Ripple being utilized by the government as a payment network and controlling dollar inflows, outflows, printing, etc., this is a systemic risk for government, a complete national security threat, and there's no way that this should be allowed to happen. So in that sense, you guys got to watch out for Ripple. So Jimmy started that with asking what chips are used for blockchain. Ripple is pretty fast, right? I think it's got 4-second finality, meaning by the time you make a transaction, it's done, recorded in 4 seconds, solid, finished. Ripple has specific requirements, and you could actually type in and search what Ripple's requirements are. Ethereum, you could use a standard computer. What they want is like an Intel 7 processor, so you could use a CPU, and they need to have a certain amount of RAM, a certain amount of hard drive space, and internet speed. That's it. Nothing about Ripple says high intensity. Same thing with Bitcoin. Now, some of these other networks might be much bigger requirements, but none of them say you have to have an Nvidia H100 chip. Not one says that. Could that help the network? Possibly, but they don't need it. It's not needed. Remember, with blockchain, all we're doing is recording small little pieces of data. Now, what happens if we open the doors to the world and all of a sudden, 80% of the world is using blockchain? Maybe they have to increase the requirements of those computer systems to make it more robust, more stable, more secure. But for right now, Jimmy, real basic computer. I literally downstairs, I run a Bitcoin node off an old computer. It literally, I think it's like an i5 processor. It's not fast. I got a pretty good internet connection, and I've got a 2 terabyte external hard drive. I plug in, and I have a copy of the Bitcoin node, and I'm helping that whole thing survive and function. So you don't need anything special to run a blockchain. All right, sorry for that long-winded answer, Jimmy. It was a great question. Retirement Watchdog, good stuff, Merlin. Personally, I don't buy the hype from the Chinese company. They're not typically... Exactly. And that's been my thing, in Retirement Watchdog. I know you haven't been on the show much, but, if you notice my earnings calendar or my economic calendar, I use Forex Factory over here. And typically when I'm showing it, I love to look and see what's going on. What's the data look like for the day, the week, the month? Let's go back to today's data so we can see that. So here's our economic data for today. We had some good news with new home sales, like really good news with new home sales. But I rarely ever have China on here. I actually go to the filter and I typically take China out. And I apologize to, my Chinese followers. I have nothing against Chinese. I have issues with their government not being transparent or manipulating data. Now, to be fair, is our government, modifying numbers? Are they misleading on some data points? Absolutely. They absolutely are. However, my trading, my investments are predominantly U.S. based. And I would argue to some, I'm sure disagreement here, that the U.S. is the dog that wags the financial tail of the world. So I want to focus on the U.S. Now, if China was far more influential in global policy, or maybe I was a Chinese citizen living in China, then certainly I would be more in tune with the Chinese data. I'd be looking at the Hang Seng and all the different indexes over there, but I'm not, right? I am here. So I'm definitely focusing on the U.S. and maybe we get a little bit more openness, some more transparency on financials and numbers, but I'll be honest, I don't even trust the numbers from our U.S. We look out today. These numbers are probably okay, these new home sales, existing home sales. But we go back to last Friday's when we had the core PCE price index numbers. That was good stuff. Is that last Friday? I'm totally losing track of my time here. It's this Friday. This Friday, we got the core PCE price index numbers coming out. This is a colossally important piece of economic data, but I don't know if I trust it. I don't know that it's not modified or tweaked, right? I just don't know. I like the data because it does move markets, but I will tell you, I don't hang my hat on the data. I don't make trades leading into these announcements because they can be so traffic. All right, good to see you, Doug. All right, let me keep you on the list here. Not heard of XRP fraud. Thought it wasn't very decentralized. Yeah, it's not very decentralized, and the fact that I'll show you over here. We'll go to let's go to bar chart, or sorry, not bar chart. We'll go to CoinMarketCap, and I've shown this to you guys before, but you can look at any crypto, but it's the third largest crypto here is XRP. Got a market cap $173 billion. Well, you notice it's got it listed right here. You see the circulating supply is 57 billion, but the max is 100 billion. That delta, that difference is 42.36 billion. Ripple are sitting with Ripple Labs. That's just too scary. At any moment, they could unload that stuff. It does give them power. But again, there's far better projects than this. Like if I had to choose between Ripple and Cardano, I would absolutely take Cardano. It's faster, it's more secure, it's decentralized. But for some reason, people think Charles Hoskinson is a fraud. It's tough. You never really know who's a fraud until after the fact, unfortunately. You could look at people like Do Kwon. Do Kwon, he was always kind of shady, but then came out that he was a shyster and a fraudster. You've got Mashinsky as well. He seemed like he was actually okay. His background had some pretty good experience. Well, he was a fraud as well. So sometimes you just never know, and I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. But when it comes to Ripple or cryptos, I'm going to lean more towards a project as a fraud until I research it, analyze it, and understand it better. This is a problem I see in crypto overall, is people just buy into something and they have no idea what it is, what it represents, how it functions, the tokenomics. It's scary. I did not know that, Liz. Today was the start of the Chinese New Year. I did not know that. I did not know. Does it make it more suspicious? I don't know if it's suspicious. Look, I'll give you guys a bad one. This is something in my mind. I was just thinking like, okay, what could one do to make an incredible amount of money in a very short window of time? And I think I've actually told you guys about it. It was super. I said this over a year ago, probably 2-3 years ago. Create a cryptocurrency, get an influencer, give them half, pump it, make a bunch of money. But that's robbing from people. Another one which is a very bad thought, but just, you have to think about the extent to which people go about manipulating markets and doing things. Let's say I don't even want to say it. I think I might get in trouble for actually saying this in this day and age. I may have to do a different example that doesn't require. You could do something with a package from Amazon and make it that when that person opened the package, something bad happened, and then all of a sudden it spreads in the news that, oh, Amazon packages are dangerous, don't open them. What's going to happen to Amazon stock? It's going to plummet. And there's a lot of that where people will use the media to show bad information or create an impression about something, and that's just overall wrong. But yeah, there's a lot of ways you can make money. I think the Hawk Tuah coin was a good one. Hawk Tuah was definitely a rug pull, but that was orchestrated by the developers, not the Hawk Tuah girl. She didn't have a clue what she was doing, honestly. Let's see. Even if they can achieve more with less, in the end, that always means you can do a whole lot more with it. Exactly, MT. That was kind of what I'm gleaning from this. If this DeepSeek, we're back to DeepSeek again. If this DeepSeek can do what they said they're doing, which I think is fantastic because now they've told the world, no, here's how we're doing it. It's open source. You can see how we're doing it. These other companies, XAI, Google DeepMind, you've got Baidu, Meta, Microsoft Azure, all of these AI systems are going to look at that and go, oh, wow, maybe we can do it this way and we can optimize our resources even more. And because we have these GPUs, we can accomplish a lot more. My question, and this is something I need to talk to somebody in the industry who is really, really high up, is at what point have we trained these large language models on everything there is to train it? I mean, theoretically, I could just go to the Library of Congress, take every single book that's ever been written about every topic, upload that in my large language model, and take everything that's on the web, put that in there, because you can now download stuff and drop it all in this large language model and say, okay, you know everything that's humanly created and written down. What other models do I need to make? Now, what I think DeepSeek was interesting is it was, instead of having a model that does everything well, DeepSeek says, oh, we don't need to use these components. We're focusing on this topic, whether it's a mathematical computation. So if I'm looking at something to write code or math, I don't need to have the English or grammar component of it or how to syntax. I just need to know how to write code. So I can tailor these models to go application specific, which I think is what gave DeepSeek its competitive advantage, at least in the documentation they've been saying. I think I'm going to create a Cheeto coin. Do it. Create a Cheeto coin. I'll show you how to do it. It's easy to do. Like April Fool's joke in our market prices so far. How did FXI do? We can look at FXI. FXI. Let's go China. It's gonna be huge, huge. I didn't see any real anything abnormal today. Up 0.89. I think what you're gonna get is this gonna create a lot more discussion between China. I saw Big Ed posted a comment that says, tariff the app. I'm hearing for calls to remove it from the App Store because it's now the most common app in iTunes or in the App Store. It's kind of weird. All right. Well, let's talk about this one real quick because I think that this is an interesting piece here that I've mentioned before about Trump's ability to create shock factor and then backpedal and everything is okay. So from my understanding and all I've read, which again, I got to trust what I read, which is a difficult thing for me to take nowadays, but he was trying to deport people back to Colombia. And Colombia's like, well, we don't want them. We're not going to let those planes land. So Trump says, oh, really? 25%. Just bam, you're getting 25% tariffs on your goods in the United States. Well, consider we get a lot of our coffee. We get a lot of our coffee from Colombia, Brazil, Southeast Asia. That caused a little bit of a shock to the system today. I'll show you the price of coffee, by the way. I'll just do the past month of trading from the low to where we are right now. 11% in the last 12 trading sessions for coffee to the upside. Do you really want to go back a little bit further? In the last 57 days, so call that 3 months, coffee's up 45%. Goodness gracious. That's a huge run up in coffee. And if we step back even further, you're looking at colossal gains. If you go back into 2023, coffee is now up since that window of time 142%. I mean, pretty crazy. So that impact today was Colombia saying no. Trump wields this weapon, which to me it's weaponizing tariffs and politics. And he said 25% tariff. Colombia apparently backed down and said, okay, we'll take them and we'll actually help get them out of the country. this to me is the first of many. I would expect this to happen a lot over at least the next 3 or 4 months as this deportation thing starts to heat up and things moving, getting people out of the country. If someone doesn't work with Trump, he's going to immediately say tariffs and slap him real hard with tariffs. Unfortunately, fortunately, I would say, this is going to sound very arrogant. I apologize. Not me. It's just my thinking. The United States doesn't need Colombia. Colombia needs the United States. We're such a consumer part that, like, if we lost all trade with Colombia, it wouldn't be the end of the world. Colombia's major export, cocaine and coffee, coming straight to America. If we lose those two things, of course, the cocaine will still get in. I doubt we're going to see smugglers bringing in bales of coffee. Hey, man, I got your coffee beans here. Drop them in the airplanes. I think that a lot of other countries, to maintain business relationships with America is an economic necessity. So something like what Trump just pulled with Colombia, I think he can start doing that with a lot of other countries. And it'd be very interesting to see over the next few months how this plays out. I mean, it could be something that he weaponizes and actually does put us in a much more favorable position in getting what we want as a country, or at least what Trump would want as a country. So going to be very interesting. As he call it reparations instead of deportation. Repatriation, no. Tariffs on cocaine. Make it legal, Lisa? You're going to go to that libertarian route that says just make all drugs legal? Makes me glad I don't drink coffee. You know what, Lori? It's funny. I just started drinking coffee. I got for Christmas, I bought a Keurig. Now, I'm not even a big coffee drinker, but boy, I got no, I'm not going to drink Luwak coffee or Luwak coffee. That just sounds too gross to me. If an animal eats my coffee beans and then poops it out, I'm not drinking it. It's just got some weird, even though I come from German backgrounds, and the Germans will eat some crazy foods. Like I remember my dad was talking about when he was dating my mom, he went over to their parents' house, and I guess my mom's father's favorite dish is a thing called Sauerlunge, which is sweet and sour lung. And I guess my dad had to tough that one out. But yeah, the Germans will eat some weird stuff, but I'm not eating monkey poop. Not going to happen. There, no monkey poop. But you could make a Luwak coin. And it's funny, somebody in here was talking about a DeepSeek coin. I'm willing to bet you there's already a DeepSeek coin. Let's go and see. It's been, 2 days since Friday this thing kind of blow up. Let's go deep. There's already DeepSeek AI, DeepSeek Agent, DeepSeek R1. I mean, there's already multiples. Now, these things have such low liquidity. Wow, this one already has 25 million volume. Let's see the highest one. That's on, so someone created on Sol. Let's go look at this one right here, which is the $25 million market cap. So DeepSeek here, someone created, wow, I don't know what, total supply, 42? There's 42 of them. That doesn't make any sense. Someone messed that one up, but anyway. Yeah, whatever's a hot topic will automatically be a coin immediately. Heated plastic Keurig, no bueno. Be careful. I know. I'm aware. I usually have a mocha. I'm not a coffee person, but on Saturdays we'll go and have a mocha. That's pretty much my thing. But now I've got a coffee maker with the espresso latte maker, and I have the chocolate syrup. So now I'm great, guys. I'm on the bandwagon. I'm drinking coffee now. Who knew it took this long to develop my addiction? But when she says revenge, it could be. Lisa, maybe I would try it, but I'm just not. I don't really like the flavor of coffee. Period. That's why I have to drink a mocha. I can't drink straight coffee. It's too bitter. It's just gross. Anyway, let me wrap up. What time we got? Okay, perfect. Let's run through our markets here and see what we got, because there was just so much interesting stuff today. Obviously, we look at the crypto space, and you had just meltdown abound, right? Lots of pretty big drops. You had natural gas was also, I mean, this one got swept under the rug today. You know, we had John Rowland on the other day, and he was talking somewhat optimistically about natural gas, but the last few days have been brutal, down 15% over the last 9 trading sessions for natural gas. But let's go up and look at some of our commodity prices here. Some big swings in things like wheat and cocoa. All right, wheat and cocoa had some big swings, but it's the crypto stuff was just huge. Where is my crypto page? There we go. Let me sort this by the crypto gainers. And luckily it's been bouncing, but Pepe Coin, one of the worst performers, great. Going to zero, guys. This thing's garbage. Oh, let's look at the bag holders. Let's go talk about of fraud that was perpetrated on America with the Trump coin. Oh yeah, look at that. We're down to 27 bucks on this bad boy. Any takers? This thing's gonna be under 10, and I give you another couple months. This thing will be under 10 bucks. It's gonna get under 10 bucks. It's gonna keep drifting lower and lower. I see all these fools posting on social media, and they keep talking about how, oh, this thing's ready for its next run. It's gonna go to 70. No, you got the biggest holder of it, can be selling this at any moment, and you probably should. Add Bailey's to my coffee. Oh, my dry January is over. I couldn't do it anymore. I was reading these things, right, and they say, dry January is good because if you stop drinking alcohol, you'll feel better, you'll be more energetic, you'll think clearer, all these. It's like the list of benefits is like, God, I gotta try that. And granted, I drink probably on Fridays, and maybe Tuesday night I have a beer when I go to trivia. Finally, I was like, not only am I not getting any of those things from dry January, but I'm actually like depressed because I don't get to go to my local watering holes and have a beer. So yeah, we fell off the wagon on Friday. So I'm back. I'll have a glass of whiskey with you guys on Friday for the show. We're back to my Friday glass of whiskey with you. So that was your some of worst performing. Let's look at Bitcoin real quick because it was a pretty volatile day today. Only down 0.71% right now. I mean, that really is not a bad thing, but look at the gyrations that Bitcoin has had over the past couple of days. Real big swings here. Now I'll bring up the daily just so we can see what's going to go on. Long bottoming tail, huge long tail. We recovered. Love it. I know. I'm a quitter. I gave up. I couldn't do it. Big Gab, just so you know, I mean, that's why I want to make clear, like, I am not a like a drinker. I like to have a couple cocktails every now and again, but no, not a daily thing. Good luck, Gazelle. Good luck. It really wasn't that big of a deal. I could have gone, but I like to go. I have a couple places I go where I just like to sit and just talk to the locals. It's just like my social outlet where I don't have to. I can just, I don't know, just kind of meet and talk, and that's fine. It did damp January. I like that, Gary. That's a good one. All right, let me go to my top 8 here, and then we'll wrap things up before I get too off track. And then we'll talk about our guest schedule. I got some damn good guests this week. I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, Bitcoin was your biggest loser, but if you look at it, it's 3.39 since Friday. This, of course, is the futures market, so it's going to look a bit distorted. We were already selling off going into Sunday night, so that doesn't quite accurate looking at the future side of things. But here's your NASDAQ. We already looked at this one, down 2.9%. Crude oil also having a pretty damaging day, right down to the level where I thought it would get to. Now, here we are at this kind of weak demand zone. That's not strong, between, call it 74 and 73. If it's going to bounce, I expect it to bounce here. If not, we're coming all the way back down to 69 and change. So kind of hoping it bounces right here and at least has a little bit of stabilization. But remember, I am bearish on crude oil. I think the more we open up these national reserves and give more permits to oil drilling companies, we're going to have a surplus and a lot more oil coming out of the ground, and that should drive prices down here. So we'll see if this does bounce at all, but again, I do think we're going lower over the next few months. Here's your 10-year yield, dropping 1.8%. I talked about this level a few weeks back where I said, 4.5 is kind of a pretty key number for you. It looks like a head and shoulders pattern right now, everybody, on that 10-year. So I'll draw the yield out here off a head and shoulders pattern. If you are new and would like me to draw the head and shoulders so you can see it, I'm happy to do so to explain. Just got to tell me in chat. But I think most of you know what a head and shoulders is. So measuring object wise, if we get a break here, it should drop it down to about 4.2%. That should be where this ends up falling if we get a close below 4.5. That's the way your measuring object would work, and I wouldn't put that anything as out of the ordinary. Would be a surprise if it fell that much, but that is kind of the way it could pan out here. Brandon says wants to see it. Okay, so the head and shoulders pattern would look something like this. We'll take our little drawing tool. I'll put to snap or lock mode, and here you've got your left shoulder. It comes down to the neckline. It bounces up, hits that high. That comes all the way back, and it's a little bit off, but let's go there, to that one, and then to there. So I'll modify this line very briefly just to show you kind of how it would change. 1 second. So because they're slightly sloped, I would go like this, and pretty much there, a little bit higher maybe. So that would really be your head and shoulders pattern. You guys can see you've got the left shoulder, and the right and the head. At this point right here, if I just slide it over, it's a beautiful uptrend, right? Everything looks fine. There's nothing to be concerned about on the picture that you see here. But as soon as we bounce off this, like, okay, you would make the argument that we're in an uptrend for almost the whole screen here. If this thing had strength, as it has had since December, it should rally up and make a new high. Like, yeah, here we go. All right, good, boom. And all of a sudden, not only does it not make a new high, but it comes crashing back down to that equal low. This right shoulder represents the weak part. It's basically saying the momentum that was there on the left-hand side of your screen is no longer there. It's a sign of weakness. So in this case, what that means is, in this case would be bearish, Brandon. It means that this most likely is going to lead to further downside movement in the U.S. bond yield. Right now we're going at 5.43. That means my target here would be 4.2% if we get a nice closure. And we're actually technically closed below it. So there you go. Let's see. Let me go and run through what time I got. I got 8 minutes left, and JD just throws a whole bunch of questions. Yes, Brandon. Bearish on the yield, right? Remember, if this yield keeps dropping, that's actually good for markets. It's good for markets. The lower this yield gets, the better. It's cheaper capital for businesses to expand and do whatever they want with. So here is your gold chart in the day. Boy, that was a pretty aggressive move. I actually thought we were going to hit all-time highs before we sold off, but you're down 1.46% on the day for gold. Your S&P, which you already talked about, I really don't think there's anything to be concerned about here. We are still overall in an uptrend, even though today was a very volatile day. I'll be honest, I think the market digested this information fairly good, and I do believe that the market's shrugging it off like there's no way this information is legit. Russell 2000 was down 0.9%, and your best performer, dollar index, and that was down just ever so slightly. Now, I am still concerned about the dollar index because it did break below that 107.81 mark. We actually came back and retested it today, so my bias, I hate to say it, is that this dollar is going to continue to slide lower. There is a demand zone that I'm looking at right here. For the podcasters, I will tell you what that is as soon as I draw it out. That's between 107 and 106.70. So you got a 30-cent range there, which we actually tiptoed down into today. We just barely hit it, but I think that will be your next bouncing point for that dollar index. All right, let me go into JD's. He was on Google. Thoughts on Google with Meta earnings on Wednesday. So first off, I wouldn't really want to trade these going into the earnings announcement. If I did, I'd be selling options, but way, way, way out of the money. So you saw what happened last time they came out with earnings. You had a pretty big gap up for Google or Alphabet, and it's been doing nice ever since. I'm not going to play this one from that perspective. I like the chart, even though the uptrend right here for the past month and a half, 2 months, has not been great. It has been making slightly higher highs and slightly higher lows. So it's a really weak uptrend going on Google right now. I mean, if you're playing that, then today's the buy point, right? Because you're down near the lower end of the range of this channel that's moving up here. Now, if we look at Meta, it's hard to say anything here about Meta because it's all-time highs. So I'm not a buyer of Meta. I would never buy anything at all-time highs. Actually, that's not true. I would buy Bitcoin at all-time highs, but I've got enough Bitcoin for now, so I'll wait for pullbacks. But in this case, as you pointed out, we have a slew of earnings happening this week. But you have Meta happening on Wednesday after hours. You also got, I thought we had Google as well. I know Google's next week. You have Apple, right? You have Apple reporting on Thursday, and you have Microsoft is reporting on Wednesday, and Tesla as well. So, JD, I don't know if I could give you any real heads up there as far as what I'm thinking. I just know they're coming out with earnings, and I'm going to expect them to have a lot of volatilities, and I usually stay away from it. But that's me. You know, everybody's got their own approaches to how they trade earnings announcements. I'm just trying to be more of a risk manager, and I know that when you're trading an earnings announcement, all rhyme or reason goes out the window. And everybody here can attest to this. You could have Google report the biggest profit they've ever had, biggest margins they've ever had, and all of a sudden it's down 10% of the day. And you're going, how is that possible? Oh, well, we lowered our forecast by 1 penny. And the markets just don't like what they hear and just tank the thing. So it's just too unpredictable for me. It's always wonderful when you're on the right side of it and you're like, yeah, I got 30% gain on my leverage positions with options overnight. Not worth the risk for me, so I stay away. Boeing. Chris wants to know about Boeing. Man, I'm kicking myself for my 140. I did not sell those 140 puts. I wanted to, but I was just too scared about the amount of money that Boeing continues to lose. But I guess this one, is just too big to fail and will never fail because I guess riddle me this. When's the last time Boeing showed any profit? I mean, that's a great trivia question. I'm going to go back here just for fun and see when was the last time that I actually saw a reported profit for Boeing. All right, just being fun here for everybody for a second as I approach a 1 hour show. And this is per share. So I'm going by reported. Jeez Louise. I'm all the way back into 20. Oh, there we go. So it was the last reported earnings where they actually showed a profit in any one quarter was July of 2021. We're going on 4 years that they have not shown a profit on their earnings day. That I mean, look, if you're losing money every single quarter, I mean, if you imagine you are a business, you're bankrupt. You've got to be going under. Unfortunately, they managed to survive because I think the government pays them. Tesla, Microsoft, Meta, ASML on Wednesday. I know, brutal day. Well, we'll talk more about that when we get there. Let me real quickly talk about my guest for the week. I think I actually had a Twitter page with it up here, but now I don't know where it is. So let me go and put it on my X so I can bring it up. And I've got a really couple of good guests going on in the next couple of days here, so I'm sure you guys will all join it. But here's my upcoming guest list. Do I make it full screen? Oh, look at that. I have to start doing this more often. So I'm going to have Lex Luthringhausen from Tradier.com. This guy's an old options floor trader. He's just got a ton of background, ton of experience. We're going to talk with him. He works for Tradier, who actually just opened up an options account with them. They've got one more place I've got accounts, but I'll be doing some options trades over there. They've got a really cool program where you get for $10 a month, unlimited options trades. Now, sometimes I'm trading 50, 60, 80 contracts at a time. So I'll test that one out, let you know how it is. But he's going to be my guest on tomorrow's show. On Tuesday or Wednesday, I'm going to have Dr. Larry Jacobson on the program. We're going to talk about his latest pick in the market. Thursday, after our FOMC announcement, we are going to have Bill Addis on the program again, the Bond King, I like to call him. And of course, Friday will be my show by myself. Trading week wrap up with a little bit of whiskey involved. So that is your list of guests for the week. As far as announcements and things happening, how much time do I got? 2 minutes. Not a lot on the earnings front for tomorrow, but I will show you here real quick what's happening on the economic announcement front. You can see for the U.S., Tuesday the 28th brings us consumer confidence. We've got Case-Shiller Composite 20 Home Price Index. You also got durable goods orders. That's a biggie there. Now, lastly, I will bring this up and show the earnings calendars just because there were some that start. Not the right one. There's some that start tomorrow, but really the big stuff happens on Wednesday and Thursday. Tomorrow you've got Boeing, General Motors, Lockheed Martin, Starbucks, and there should be another defense stock in here. RTX and Lockheed Martin were the two, and then Boeing. So you're going to have three big defense plays going on tomorrow. Royal Caribbean as well, General Motors. So a lot of big names. We'll see if Starbucks is impacted by the surging coffee prices as well. All right, that's going to do it for me, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it today. Be safe out there. Don't give into the panic. Just stay calm. And when you have those big down days, you got to think about, is this an opportunity to be buying? If your risk tolerance says it's a good time, you profit from other people's pain. As the semiconductors were crashing today, I felt like I was helping people out. Like, oh, you're hurting? I really understand that you need protection against your Nvidia shares. I will give you that protection because I'll be happy owning at 108. So I gave someone peace of mind today. I helped out my fellow traders. I hope you do as well. Thanks, guys. If you have questions for Lex Luthringhausen tomorrow, email him at tradermerlin@gmail.com, and I will see you all on tomorrow's show. Take care.